Yeah, Maureen, won't be participating today.
Okay. Hi, Patrice.
Hi.
Great. Well, let's get started. I'm not sure we'll be taking any votes. So if we do, we'll have to just determine that we have a quorum. Need to approve the minutes, but if we don't have a quorum, we can push that to the next meeting. But let's see if we do have a quorum. Looking here, I see of members of the task force: Michael, Patrice, Supervisor Knott, Steve Powers, Terrence is 5. Town Supervisor, I think that's Brenda and Tistria. That's just how it's reading here. I see Tistria on there. Matthew Mercier, Dan Haas, Bruce, that's 10. So and I also see, I see Brenda there separately, and Bill Mancini. So we have 11. So we definitely have a quorum. That's great. Thank you all. And then we also have Alejandra joining us, who will be speaking to us in a minute to present the roadmap. And Mark, of course, is here. Thank you, Mark, for joining. And Oswaldo, thank you very much for your support and getting us to the line. And Rebecca, who is Alejandra's professor at Cornell, is on as well, I see. So thank you. And Tara Donadio, thank you all for joining. Appreciate everyone coming. We have a pretty packed agenda, but we'll try to do it efficiently so we can let everyone get days. Before we start with a vote to comment on and then accept the minutes, do we have anything to add to the agenda that's not on there? Just so I'm aware and can make sure we have time. Okay, well, just either put it in the chat or feel free to interrupt me if there's something that comes up. The meeting minutes from August are attached. Were attached to the email that I sent out. Do we have any comments or a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make the motion, but David, you might want to officially call the meeting to order first.
Oh, let's call the meeting to order officially. Thank you very much.
And then I'll move that we approve.
Thank you.
And I'll second that. I don't know, do we have to record these meetings, or are we recording this just because we're back to virtual?
Yes, Oswaldo is our IT guy, and he's on here. And I believe there's also a link, right, Oswaldo, on YouTube where the public can be watching us right now. Patrice is nodding her head yes. Yes, it's not participating through our link, but they're able to view it, and it is being recorded.
Great. Okay. And I'm not sure about minutes. Maureen usually takes the minutes, so I will try to take notes. They may not be quite as exhaustive as our typical minutes, but we'll have a recording. So we have a motion and a second on the minutes. August, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so the agenda.
David, can I make one suggestion? And I hate to volunteer someone, but if Patrice was able and willing to take the minutes because you're leading the meeting, is that something, Patrice, that you might be able to just take motions and seconds and votes?
Actually, now that we don't really actually need to have minutes for this meeting. You're not subject to open meetings law. You don't need a quorum or minutes without those being an open meeting, subject to open meetings law. So
yeah, and I believe the meeting creates a transcript, which is what we actually need to have, as a verbatim transcript, which is created via the online recording.
Correct.
Great.
Well, I'll just keep a tally of the motions.
David, couldn't Maureen just listen to the recording?
Yeah, that's good. Right after, thank you.
Yeah.
So the agenda here is we have Alejandra, who was our intern for the summer from Cornell, who worked on the roadmap. She will be presenting the roadmap briefly. It's and then we'll have a discussion about how we use this document moving forward. And then we'll also talk about the community solar project, the energy benchmarking work, get an update on the countywide meeting that we're planning for the end of September, and talk about briefly where we're at with the sustainability coordinator, communications, web, and social media. There's something that we're going to move forward with there. And then before we start, just a couple housekeeping items. I sent some invites out this morning. I created a Google Drive. It's Columbia Climate Smart at Gmail is the account, and I've created a drive and I've invited everyone to the various folders that are relevant. So, for example, there is a community solar folder and there's a benchmarking folder. I haven't extended that invite to everyone, although I'm happy to, just because there are project teams that are working on those two things. And as we bring the documents and information to our task force, invite you to join those folders. I'm happy to, if anyone's curious, they can follow along. I just didn't want to bombard people. But in that, just briefly, just so you know the lay of the land there are folders for community solar and energy benchmarking for the coordinator. I invited you to the minutes, the meeting minutes, which I think are useful if you're looking back through what we've done. The roadmap folder, which we'll talk about in a minute, and resolutions that that the Board of Supervisors has passed relevant to our work. So in case anyone needs to reference anything, and that is that. So before we start, anything else before we jump in? Shift over to Alejandra. Okay, great. Alejandra, I have to. I'm much more familiar with Zoom than I am Google Meet. So Oswaldo, I'm glad you're on. How does Alejandra get control to do a presentation? Do I have to do anything?
I think I already have I can already share my screen.
Okay, great. So are you ready to take it away?
Yeah.
Great.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
So I'm not seeing you at all because I have a full screen right now in my computer, but you can leave questions if you want at the end. This is going to be as brief as possible. And
the screen from my point of view is dark. It's just a black screen.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I can see it.
I can see it. It might be on your end, Michael.
It could be. I'll listen. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So as David said, well, I was the intern for this summer. We worked together to do the roadmap to bronze to complete the Climate Smart Communities certification. I'm Alejandra. I'm a MPA candidate at Cornell Institute for Public Affairs. There is my contact information, and my advisor and support was Professor Brenner, that is also in the call. So you'll find this slide at the end also. So we worked this summer to create this roadmap living document. Here at the right, you can see a screenshot on the actions that we mapped out and I compiled, and see what were the status of them. So it's a Google Sheet. It's a dynamic document that you need to continue updating. So it's easier to keep track on each of the actions. Think of this, it has the color code. The green ones are the ones that are completed. The blue ones are the ones that are actions in progress. Some of them are to be completed, and the orange ones are the ones that are actions in scoping. So this document definitely can support the task force to achieve bronze. And from this report, from this roadmap living document, I completed a report. I compiled details on the current status to reach bronze. So this report, this is the screenshot of first page. I included some demographics on the county. Also, I included a
Sorry,
summary.
Alejandra, sorry to interrupt. Can everyone mute, please? I'm just getting some feedback. Thank you. Go ahead, Alejandra. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Don't worry. So as I was saying, I included, this is a bit of what I included, which is demographics on the county, a summary of the Climate Smart Communities program, the requirements for bronze certification, the current status of how is the county doing to achieve bronze certification, and then a detailed review of each action. So each of the lines in the roadmap living document, I explain each of them in this report, so you can see exactly what's the status. And also, I added a business case for electric vehicle charging stations in the county. So I found important to include this, what's the current status. The certification for bronze requires 120 points. And currently with the green ones that I'll show you in the next slide, with the actions that are in green, you already have 76 points. So you're very close if you complete some of the blue ones. Well, sorry, I'll continue later explaining this, but you can see here the current status. So what I want to say is that you are very mandatory actions. You already are only missing one, and the actions already completed include the priority actions required for the bronze certification. Also, the minimum is all these details to see if you want to know how was any of these actions completed. You can read it in the report. These are the actions in progress that are the ones in blue. Okay, I think it's important to explain, per each action there is a range of points that it can be achieved. Points, we decided to go the minimum, but definitely if the county does more work, they can achieve more. Actions in progress, very close to be achieved. Also, it's important to mention that the coordinator is the remaining mandatory action that needs to be completed to be able to submit the application for bronze. Well, all of these details, like what's missing per each of the actions, can also be found in the report. And as you can see here, I went to another slide. You can see here the 76 points I was talking about that you have completed. And if you complete all these 49 actions, if you complete these actions in progress, then you can add these 49 points to certification and then definitely submit the certification. And these are other actions that are in scoping. These are not the low-hanging fruit actions, but definitely are potential actions that are recommended by the program to be completed, because these actions can support other actions implementation. As you can see, there are 83 points in the scoping. So it's even, you can complete consecutive certifications if you continue updating and completing these actions, the ones on scoping. So now, as I said before, there is a section on the report that is of the current status of the electric vehicle charging stations in Columbia County. You can see all the details and explanations also in the report, but I found important to add this main dashboard that explains the EV market. The trend is increasing, definitely. There are more registrations per each year. You can see in this graph here, in this bar chart, how from 2002 to our current days, 2020, 2021, the trend has increased a lot. So this trend is, and well, however, there are not so many charging stations, fast charging, but there are non-charging stations on level 3 in the county. There are, you can also read this explanation in the report, but the level 3 charging stations are the ones where you can charge your car in less than an hour, almost like 80% of your battery. The county does has a lot of level 2 charging stations. However, they are not very efficient because they take around 8 hours to charge of the car. So I just wanted to mention this, that the county currently doesn't have any level 3 charging station. And well, just to add that it's important to recall that Columbia County has the Hudson Valley Green Trail. There are many sections on the Empire State Trail that pass through Columbia County, and that definitely will motivate more tourism and more visitors to come. But it cannot think if there was a level 3 charging station. And here's a cute photo of some bike tourists. No, they are from the county. There's Mark and Steve. And well, that's basically to acknowledge David Newman for his support, Steve Powers, Tristia Honglington, and Mark Antonisen, and above all, everyone in Columbia County that supported to compile and put together all this information so you can have it to achieve grants. Thank you.
Wow, that was very succinct, and there's a lot of work that was done here, and I strongly suggest that you take a close look at the roadmap report that's in the folder. I would use the Drive folder, what was sent around by email, just because that will be the most updated version. And before I comment briefly and then open it up to questions, I just want to thank Alejandra on behalf of the task force and the county for the work, because I've worked with a lot of interns over the years, legal interns and grad interns, very smart people, and this is one of the best experiences, I have to say, in terms of your ability to work independently and create some valuable information and such a resource for us to carry forward. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And you're doing this after your internship is over. So school has started again. I recognize that. So thank you for making it really serve us well. One thing to comment is there are 2 documents. There's a written roadmap report, which Alejandra mentioned a few times. That describes more in depth the actions and provide. But then there's the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet is the document that really will continue to be a tool that we use and update. Perhaps we'll update the report from time to time too. But that's really the key. So as we think forward about what comes next and how much bandwidth we have to do more, the solar initiative and the benchmarking project, we will look to this as a guide and a way for us to organize our priorities moving forward. But thank you, Alejandra, and I see that Tistria has her hand up. So let's open it up to questions.
Yeah, so I just wanted to echo what David has said. Excellent work, Alejandra. Thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to our county. Thank you, Rebecca, for sharing her with us, and really stellar work. And I think this document is going to be such a fabulous guide for us when we do have a coordinator, that person can really use this as a guiding document. Even some of the actions in the orange, like the recycling bins at the county buildings and the organic waste for citizens, those are happening as well and almost done. And so, it's exciting to hear how close we are to bronze, because I really think we're closer than we think. And it's nice to see it all kind of laid out in a spreadsheet. And I'm for us, thank you so much. And I'm excited to be able to use this as a working document, especially like David said, that spreadsheet, for now with David utilizing it, but eventually when we get the coordinator in here, they can come to the task force each month and report on like, okay, if we do these 5 more things, we're there. Now we need to do these 3 more things. And it can really guide our efforts to hit that certification. So thank you very much, Alejandra.
Terrence.
All right. Thanks. And yeah, again, thank you so much. I had 2 quick questions. One, if we were to complete an action and get points on it, but not the maximum points, but then completed more of that action, would we get more points? Or is it kind of once you submit your action, are those points fixed?
It depends on the action you are completing. The website itself has the process to have certain points. If you complete this part, you'll have, 2 points. If you complete this other part additional, you can have 4 points. So it depends what does the county completes.
Cool.
Yeah,
My other question.
Sorry, Terrence, this is Mark. We're doing that in New Lebanon with climate vulnerability assessment. We did 1 level, and now we're going back with a broader submission. So hopefully you can double dip on specific actions.
Great, thank you. My other question was just, can I share either of those documents with my coworkers if they're interested, or are these going to stay, are they not kind of ready to be shared yet?
It's up to David and Tristia and everyone. It's the report now.
I think they're shareable, right, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the report, I think they're shareable. There's nothing in there that is, confidential or we'd be concerned about. I would just caveat it that these are kind of internal working documents, and they're not really intended for publication for people to review and read as a completed document, because the expectation should be that they're really for internal planning purposes. But if there's interest among CLC colleagues to see what we're working on, I absolutely, please, by all means, because we're going to need support from folks like CLC, and if there are projects and initiatives that a group like that can participate in, and they get exposed to what we're thinking about, that would be great. But just make sure people understand kind of what the purpose of the documents are. Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Okay. So does and feel free to use the raise hand function, but also just feel free to speak up. Are there any other kind of questions or points of discussion? I mean, we'll use this not so much today, but in the coming meetings, in the coming months, as we kind of get the 2 priority projects and this meeting that we've got planned kind of further along, and we start looking forward to some other projects. Also, if you look at the spreadsheet on your own time and you feel like we need to move forward more quickly, or we can actually move forward more quickly on some of these, feel free to email me, and we'll work to get things moving along more quickly. It's obviously as a volunteer group, we're limited by our own time and resources to move things forward. We all would like to move forward more aggressively on all of these things. So we're limited by the ability for all of us collectively to do this work. So if you see there's something there and you want to lean in and do more work on pushing something forward, please, we're not going to, we need that kind of initiative to move forward more quickly. And then hopefully when we have a coordinator, we'll be able to actually coordinate these efforts more and bring more resources to bear. So are there any other comments on the roadmap or questions for Alejandra? Great.
Oh, sorry guys. I think Rebecca's trying to jump in. I think
Oh, sorry,
on mute.
I didn't see that. Go ahead, Rebecca.
We still can't hear, or I can't hear her. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I see she's muted, but
Okay.
I can't unmute her. Rebecca, if you want to just put something in the chat, I can read it. And in the meantime, we'll move on. So we quick update on community solar. We have a draft RFP, which I emailed out to everyone. There's a more updated version in the drive, and I'm happy to share that with beyond our little task force, our little group that's not task force, our little committee that's working on this. There are essentially two documents: the RFP that will be sent out to solar providers to get their proposals. And then there's the scoping document, which we'll be working on to define and describe the campaign, and we'll present that in a month to the comments on, well, in advance of the meeting on the campaign and the campaign plan and what we're planning to do, so we can get everyone's feedback. The RFP, the next steps for the RFP, and I just want to highlight a few key questions for folks right now. But the next step is to work with the controller's office to officially release this RFP and one question for perhaps Supervisor Knott, who I think is on the call, is it would be helpful if we had a formal introduction to the controller so that we can follow up with him and with his office, both on the solar RFP and also on the benchmarking, which we'll talk about in a minute, because I think we have a very clear understanding of what steps we need to take, and we're ready, willing, and able to provide this draft for him to work with and to provide support as well. So, Supervisor Knott, I see you're there. Thank you for joining.
No problem. And I do have to leave at 11 here for a doctor's appointment. So as far as benchmarking, I did provide the spreadsheet that I had compiled with all the county buildings that we had originally given to the state to try and determine our points that we'd already done. The controller's office is trying to fill that out with the benchmark, with the utility cost information that you had requested. As far as the RFP, this was all new to me. I thought that we had approved, the county Board of Supervisors had approved a resolution to ask the controller's office to do an RFP. But then when I read what you had compiled, that looked like something the task force was trying to do on their own. And we wanted to do that separate of the county. Is that the task force's idea at this point in time? I mean, I guess you can move ahead with a community program just as a task force. It doesn't involve the county?
No, that's not the idea. The idea is that we're trying to facilitate it. We're trying to help the controller by providing, based on a template that NYSERDA has for these projects more broadly, and based on experience and questions that people who have done community solar projects in the towns have had. We've created a document for the controller's office to take and to modify as necessary to comply with the requirements of the county and facilitate it, so we can move it along and make it easier for the controller, and also inform it with some of the expertise among this task force on how to run a community solar project and what types of questions and requirements we'd want to see in the proposal. So it's really meant as a draft for the controller to use. We are aware that the resolution requires the RFP to come from the controller's office.
And if I could, David, also, Supervisor Knott, there's very specific requirements via NYSERDA because this is through the Climate Smart Communities program. So the controller's office isn't necessarily going to be aware of what, that template comes from NYSERDA. So you can't just create your own RFP that doesn't follow certain things from NYSERDA. So the goal was to have it come from the controller's office with the proper language and other things that NYSERDA's templates say need to be in there, along with, you know, a lot of our towns have done these and found this works really well, this doesn't work so well. And obviously the controller's not a you know, professional on community solar or NYSERDA or the Climate Smart program. So, you know, working together, I think, is the best goal. But yes, the RFP comes from the controller's office. So if we can provide him a draft that he can then modify to any requirements from his end, from the county's end, I think that's the best solution.
All right, I will provide that draft to them. You know, Ron Caponera is our county controller. I'm not sure, there's a couple people in his office. I'm not sure if he's going to task somebody to do this or not, but I'll follow up with him and try and get some words of wisdom there.
It'd be great, Supervisor Knott. It would be very helpful if you could please include me on the email so that we can answer questions efficiently if the controller has questions, and we can then work together. I think the resolution calls for a group of people to be tasked with this, and the controller, you know, to be involved in that as well. So it would be great if we could work together. There are some specific details around the calendar and the schedule of how we're trying to get this rolled out. And there's some great urgency because we hear that the solar providers are really nearing the end of available bandwidth for community solar projects that have either been completed or are in the late planning stages that will come online shortly, and that it may opportunities for community solar projects may dry up for municipalities if we don't act quickly. So we want to make sure that we don't miss this opportunity. Anyway, if you could connect us along with forwarding this, we would really appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you. So just a couple points for feedback, and go ahead, John Bradley. While I pull, I'm going to pull.
Just briefly on community solar. I was under the impression from conversation a few months ago that there was some real advantage for a community to initiate its program now while you're doing it, and bootstrapping on some of your effort. And I'm presenting to my town council tonight, and it doesn't have to be, you know, take up everybody's time, but I'd like to get some clarification of how some of the benefits would work, because I don't want to misrepresent it to my council.
John, could I suggest that Tara or Jill from CDRPC potentially present to your board? They've always presented to our board, and they're kind of the masters on all of these things. I don't know if you've connected with them yet, but I would strongly encourage using them as a resource.
Okay, I'll contact her after this meeting.
Great, and
Thank
John,
you.
I'm happy to talk to you offline as well about that. We've emailed a couple times, but happy to share kind of our thinking on how towns can bootstrap, you know, and what they need to do. And Mark and Steve Powers are also great resources because they've done this in their towns. I'm going to really quickly share this, not to go through the whole document. Can everyone see this screen, this page? Is that large enough?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'll just try to make it a bit bigger. That may be too big. Oh no, that works. Okay. So this is what I'm just needing quick feedback on. And Supervisor Knott, maybe you can also give us your thoughts specifically on this timeline and whether it's realistic. Again, we need to move quickly. We've heard that there are limitations and on what's going to be available, and we might miss the boat if we don't move quickly. So this is a schedule we've laid out. We think we can release the RFP before October 1st. I don't know how long in the controller's office to get this through. We have a pretty completed draft that, I mean, it's a completed draft. We're happy with it. I've incorporated comments and feedback from folks on the task force. And thank you for those that did comment. And I think we could get this out right away. I don't know how long it takes. So want proposals due 3 weeks later. Again, I think that's tight, but we want to move things forward, and maybe we can give a full month if we can release the RFP sooner. And then we'll do some interviews with the applicants, and our task force, our group, Steve, Matthew, and Terrence and I, working with the controller's office, if to what extent they want to be involved in the interviews, we'll do those interviews, and then we will select one or more provider and provide that information back to the controller's office for a final selection on behalf of the county. The way the resolution is written, it doesn't need to go back to the Board of Supervisors for that to happen. But I would imagine that the controller can make that selection or selections. We will have to be working on this scoping document and submit that for NYSERDA approval. Tara, question for you as well is, how long will that take once we submit it to NYSERDA typically? And
Tara had to drop off the call. She had another meeting.
Okay. So maybe anyone that's experienced this can comment on that. So any comments on the schedule here?
I'd like to hear from Supervisor Knott as far as the process of selecting a developer. So if, the interviews with applicant developers and the task force has a recommendation, is it the controller that makes that decision? Does it go back to the full board? I would love clarification on how that process would work.
I probably need to defer to the controller on that. I mean, I think that I thought that we were going to, when we did an energy contract before, I think this was a little different, but, than when the county did that before, we did an RFP, we had people, submit bids, and then we accepted that in another resolution. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You're just looking to kind of sell this to other people, so I'm not sure.
Right.
I will say on a town level, the town board did accept, the task force made a recommendation, but it was a town board motion that accepted the provider. And I don't know from a NYSERDA end, maybe Mark and Steve can speak to that. But I would check with the controller and potentially think of changing that December date to December 8th, because that's the full board meeting in December. And so the task force could have a recommendation, by the Friday before, by the 3rd. If the interviews are done by the 1st, the task force could have a recommendation by the 3rd. But depending on what the controller says, he might say, no, it's fine. It's like Ron said, it's not, something that the county is paying for, therefore it doesn't have to come back to the full board. But in the town, it did. That was the process, is the task force interviewed and came to the town board and said, this is who we recommend. And then we as a town board made a motion to contract with them. I don't know, Mark or Steve, if you have any insight on that.
Well, I think one of the big concerns is the incentives. And if we wait too long, those incentives are going to be gone. If we start this, before at the start of January. So if we lock in the incentives from whoever we choose before.
Yeah, I think, changing the calendar to December 8th actually makes it sooner. I'm just wondering, my question more specifically is, the town brought it through the town board when we selected a provider. Was there a reason other than that felt like the right thing to do?
So this RFP is not including the county buildings as using the solar energy. So we've got a contract with a company that's providing energy now, and we would be looking to change that potentially, is what I thought. But then when I read this RFP, you're more talking about just having a company that we can recommend to the residents to go to. So
yes,
the county is not buying energy from them.
And that's a separate resolution that I would encourage. The town board did. We switched all of our town energy to it and saved a lot of money, but that would be a separate step.
So Supervisor Knott, in the resolution, we would strongly encourage the county to switch its utilities, its accounts over to sign up for the community solar project. That would be a separate decision. In the resolution, it's the last point there. of the resolution to indicate that is the intention to do that, and that they would just simply be the municipal customer would sign up for register for the community solar project to discount and participate and green the portfolio of municipal energy consumption, which helps us on a lot of levels. But it's a separate step. For this purpose, for accepting the contract to partner, it's not a contract for energy. It's an agreement to partner, and you characterized it well, Supervisor Knott. It's so that we can go out to our residents and businesses and advertise that this is an opportunity, and we vetted it. So that's all that we're looking to do when we select a provider or more than one provider, and then we would then want to work with the controller's office to have the counties sign up as customers as well as a second step.
Okay.
Supervisor Adams.
So I can't parse the distinction between an agreement to partner and a contract, which I think is where the technical decision about whether or not it needs BOS approval would lie. But I know that one of the reasons that our town attorney felt that our town board had to do this by resolution, so we did. And the other thing is that I think that it's a great way, it's a great marketing launch for the Board of Supervisors to do this in a public way. So I just don't want to overlook that opportunity as well.
Well, I think we should try it. We should aim to do it regardless of whether it's required, because it gets everyone on board. It follows up with the Board of Supervisors. Folks are aware of it. The question is the schedule. And so, Tistria, you said that you said November 8th, or is that right?
November 8th is the full board, but if it follows regular procedure, it would want to go through county government, which is
November.
Yeah, let me look. November 18th.
Oh,
county government.
That's the real pressure point there. Is
do we really need a month though to interview providers? Couldn't we do that in 2 weeks, like November 1st to November 14th?
No, we don't need a month. We're thinking of a week here.
Well, right now you have a month for interviews. So proposals are due November 1st, and you have the November 1st to December 1st for interviews. So if you did a 2-week window for interviews, December 1st to the 14th, you could then get it to county government for their meeting on the 18th.
Maybe you're looking at the look at the document that's online there. Those dates.
I'm so sorry. November 12th.
I'm looking at the Word doc.
At an old document. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had emailed something earlier. If that was older, we're trying to accelerate things. So
okay, so I think I do think that you're going to want to change that timeline slightly.
Well, let me ask you this: if we can get this through the controller's office quickly and get the RFP released before October 1st, do you think that's realistic? Supervisor Knott, do you think that's realistic? And how soon do you think we could expect them to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Like I say, I think if the county wasn't being committed to purchase energy through this, as you say, if that's a separate motion and operation, because I think there is a current contract with a provider that does provide us with green energy right now, so we would have to change that contract in order to change. So that may take some time, but if we're just looking for the task force to be able to make recommendations, then maybe that can be executed quicker. But let me talk to Ron later today. I got to shoot out for a doctor's appointment now, but I'll try and talk to Ron later this afternoon and see if we can get some answers for you.
Okay.
And maybe check in with the county attorney, because it sounds like Brenda's Supervisor Adams' attorney said it did need town board authorization to accept the provider. And if that's the case, we can still make it happen. I think we just need to, if the controller could get this RFP out, by middle of next week, then we could probably have it to October county government for November full board approval.
Right. So what's the October county government date?
Yep, is the 28th. 21st of October. And then that would bring it to the full board meeting on November 10th.
November
Which is right in line. You have the 12th as the provider selected. So that's
Great.
right in line. So it would need, again, if he can get that RFP out by middle of next week, it would be realistic to be able to do it by that October.
Okay, so I'll revise these dates. I will email you with the final version.
He left already, but
Oh,
go ahead and email him and let him know the dates.
just so he uses the right version. I'll email him this later and I'll revise the dates.
The other thing just to bear in mind is that the controller is in deep budget season right now. So probably the sooner he deals with this, the better, because it's only going to get hotter as we get closer to budget deadlines. There is a difference. Patrice said earlier that as a subcommittee, we did not have to take meeting minutes and, respond to open meeting laws and things like that. We've asked our attorney to advise us on good standards and practices, maybe things that are not documented in the law, but how things would be done. What's the best way to do something? So I'm not saying that there's a legal requirement to do it. In the context of how our board conducts its activities, we've chosen as a matter of standards and practices to do that.
And I will say, Brenda, in the email, he spoke with, Committee on Open Government. We are not subject to open meeting law. When I forwarded that to Chairman Morrell and said, how do you feel about this? He took the same stance you took, which is, as long as, like right now, the public can view it, there's a recording. So we might not need to necessarily do written minutes, but anyone who's interested can watch what we're talking about. There's no secret meetings happening. So he said, as long as it's, on a YouTube link, the public can view it. It's accessible. So he did take that same line.
I think that's right, and we want to engage people, so we want to practice that way. I do think the minutes are useful, and if I'll talk to Maureen if it's possible to continue with the minutes, it's great. It's a great record of what we've discussed and what we're working on and what decisions we've made are in process. So we'll try to continue with the minutes or some form of that as well, so we have that record. Are there any other thoughts on the community solar project or the RFP?
So David, I'm looking at the copy that was emailed as opposed to the copy that's on your screen. All of the comments in blue have been responded to. Yes.
Let me just double check that. Hold on a sec. This is the one that's in the drive, and I can share it with everyone. It looks like there's something there. Everything's been resolved. There was a question about demand customers, which are commercial customers that get billed a certain way based on the highest single 15-minute interval in the month. Question about whether they can qualify. So that's it. Yeah, the document's otherwise clean, and I'll get rid of that and clean up the dates here so it fits with the county government schedule, and then email that after the call.
David, can I ask that before you send it to him, that you run it by Jill or Tara first?
Great.
And they're very quick, so I'm sure they'll get back within 24 hours.
Great. I'll email Supervisor Knott, let him know that he'll get it, shortly, and then do that. That's a great suggestion. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
And then, like I said before, we'll work on the scoping document, which we haven't shared because it's really in process and not ready to share. There's a lot that needs to be done on that. Our little group will work on populating that and coming up with a reasonable campaign plan, and then share that with this group for our October meeting, so we can get that submitted to NYSERDA. Now, we need to have the input of the provider in the scoping document. And does the scoping document actually require us to declare who we've selected, or can we kind of do this concurrently? I'm just concerned about how long it might take for NYSERDA to approve.
When we submitted ours, it didn't ask for the specific name of the provider, but it just asked for dates.
Okay, we do have to do it after they're chosen. Well, as long as we can submit it right when they're selected, like on the November 10th, when the board votes on it, how long do you think it'll take? A month?
No, should be, I think, within 2 weeks,
Okay,
in
great,
theory.
great.
David, it might be also useful to be, I think we talked about sharing this calendar because we will be in the holidays at that point. So to let people know it's coming and that our hope and expectation is to get it done by a certain date.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Anything else on solar?
Great work.
Thank you all. Now benchmarking really quickly. So essentially what we need is a spreadsheet of, here, I'll stop sharing. Essentially what we need is a spreadsheet of every building that's over 1,000 square feet and its precise square footage, and then upload into the EPA Portfolio Manager website, which I've signed us up for, and I've looked at it. That's pretty straightforward. We forwarded that information to through Supervisor Knott to Brian, the facilities manager, and we actually have that information from another source from Brian for related to the Smart Watt project. And so just use that information, assuming it's updated. And I've sent that that spreadsheet to Supervisor Knott as well to make sure that, you know, if it is current, then we can just go ahead and start entering that information into the Portfolio Manager ourselves. And then the only other thing we need, which is not insignificant in any way, but are all the bills for the past year. So electricity and other natural gas, fuel oil, heating oil bills, so we can enter that information in. Once we've done that, we make our calculations and we post it online, and that's basically what we need to do, and then we update it. We've asked for Supervisor Hoffling has asked for permission if we could get access to the electronic accounts so we can download that information and then have future access without having to go through and have someone at the controller's office or send us PDFs of each bill. And there are ways of automating some of the uploads for some of the utilities into the energy benchmarking system, which would make life a lot easier. Not all of our utilities provide that. So that may be an option, and we'll look into that. So right now we're at a point where we are really, we're looking to get some information from the facilities department, and we're waiting. It sounded like Supervisor Knott had said that they're working on populating the spreadsheet of the buildings, and hopefully we'll hear back on the utility bills so we can get moving on that. We have a group of people that have Michael O'Hara and Mark and sorry, I'm blanking on the third person who has agreed to help us.
Bill Mancini.
Bill, thank you. Yeah, Bill. So we have 3 people in addition to me who are standby, ready to kind of help out with this work. We're just kind of waiting for access to information.
And I will continue to be a squeaky wheel to try and get some grease on that.
Thanks.
I know everyone's busy. And, you know, I think this really speaks really well to another agenda item that we'll get to on why we need a coordinator who's a county employee. You know, I don't know, maybe they're not comfortable giving someone that's not a county employee access to those things. Someone who's a county employee works right in the building every day with these department heads that we need information from. So I think this, you know, we're ready to go. We have 2 actions that we're ready to run on, and they're both being held up, and they're rather simple actions. And what we're asking for from these departments is not a heavy lift or a difficult request. And I think that really speaks to the reason that we need a coordinator in place ASAP to be able to, you know, not that David's not doing a great job making the asks, I'm making the asks, but again, having a county employee in the building that can walk over to the controller's office and say, hey, I need these 27 bills or I need access, and it's really going to happen much more immediately. So
yeah.
Tristria, I mean, we just had a presentation from Smart Watt in the last 6 months. So we know that they gave us a summary of 2020 and a plan for, and a plan for the coming year. Would it be possible for them just to send the information or for them to populate the spreadsheet?
I think from the benchmarking I did, and Mark or Michael can speak more to this, you need the utility bill, or you need access to the utilities website. It's specific information. It's not like, hey, in the last year we used this much. It really asks for specific information, meter numbers that I'm not sure they would have.
Well, they did a 10-year spreadsheet for their plan, or a 10-year cash flow for their plan, which was based on, I understood, hard numbers. So I'm just thinking that, what is the simplest point of contact? And maybe it's just worth qualifying what they use to come up with their numbers.
History, it's possible we could use that data. We can do a compare and see if we can just lift and shift the smartwatch data.
Well, that'd save a lot of time. Yes.
Okay.
Is there a report with that updated information that has the last year's?
Held up to the screen.
Brenda, can you email that out to Mark and Michael and Bill, or email it to David and he'll get it to them?
Yep.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything else on benchmarking? We've got, and we'll continue plugging ahead. Okay, and raise your hand and interrupt me if anything comes to mind. The next thing, just real quick, I'll skip ahead, the sustainability coordinator update, because it just came up and it is really important because we need the help. And in fact, it's a mandatory requirement, just to remind everyone, in order for us to get certified as bronze. It's the other mandatory requirement that we need to meet. I believe the task force or the resolution is the other, the second one. We have, as everyone knows, we've been in discussions with CLC, who has offered to provide county for this position. Obviously, that's pending approval by CLC's board and an agreement with the county. There's a draft MOU that we're working on, which will be hopefully presented to the county, the Board of Supervisors, or through the county government, I think, committee, to work out the details, essentially, of how this would function, how this would work. And we will continue to update everyone on that as this unfolds. That's basically the update I've got. We're moving as quickly as we can to hopefully get to an agreement and get this moving forward so we can start recruiting for the position. But it will take a few extra steps. So I don't know if Supervisor Adams or anyone else has anything to add on that. There's not much really more to say at this point.
I actually have a timing question because I'd like to see this happen, sooner than later. Is it realistic to get the draft, to the chairman and supervisor not in time for the September 16th county government meeting? Like the draft form that we have, I haven't commented yet, but I just reviewed it this morning and it looks good to me. My understanding is that CLC has reviewed it, Supervisor Adams has reviewed it, you've reviewed it. So if it's in enough draft form to get it to the chairman and supervisor not, and whoever the chairman of county government is, and the county attorney, and I don't know if that's too soon, but we could have sent September 16th county government agenda to get on the October board agenda.
When do you need it by in order to get it on that agenda?
So I think we agreed to get it to Ron Knott first. And
Okay.
if he's comfortable with it, that was going to be, David, to reply to your email this morning, that was going to be one of my questions. I'm ready, if you're ready, if everybody else is ready, to send this to Ron now.
Okay.
So if we could send it to Ron today,
Yeah.
Potentially we could get it on the agenda. Kippy is the chair for county government.
Right.
I would send it to Ron and the chairman and say, here's the draft MOU, feel free to share with the county attorney. In an ideal world, it could go to county government next week. We realize that's a short time frame. So if it needs to wait till October, we're not looking to rush the process. But if it looks good to everyone involved, what's the next step? Can we get it on to county government and maybe include Supervisor Adams and myself and Supervisor Collins in that email, since we were the ones that met originally.
I agree that we want to move really quickly, but I would just hesitate on going that quickly because I think it would be helpful to have Supervisor Knott's feedback and then go back to Troy and CLC and make sure that we're clear. And if we can kind of clarify any anything that's unclear in that agreement before, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And then we go to the county government. It'll save us some time at the end going back and forth with folks. So
maybe the goal should be to get it to our task force on our October 7th meeting in a kind of final draft form that's been looked at by Ron and everyone else, and then to the county government for the October 21st meeting.
yeah, I think that's a more realistic timeline. And I'll check in with Troy as well. No, it has to go through the executive committee and the board of CLC at some point. It hasn't had to have gone through yet, but it will. So just so we're coordinated on that end, so that we don't get held up as well. And that's another reason why I want to wait, get feedback from Supervisor Knott, go back to Troy, maybe have a call, and then we can get all that kind of worked out on that end and then go through the county government.
And maybe when you send it out today, like I said, include Supervisor Collins, Supervisor Adams, myself, because the 6 of us were the original group that had that meeting. And then, you know, if the 6 of us need to meet again to talk on our end, or if we can go right to meeting with Troy, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So that's the update on the coordinator. We're moving forward, hopefully quickly. Couple other items. Tistria, she just got up, so sorry. Sorry.
I'm here.
Can you give us a quick update on the countywide meeting?
Sure. Yeah. So sent the email out to everyone that was on our list. It turned out that it was really task force members. I thought there was other organizations. I did send an email out to all of you asking for other organizations. I did hear back from a few of you, and we've definitely added some organizations. I think at this point, it's clear that it's going to be an online meeting. And so I was hoping that Patrice and Oswaldo could help me set up a Google Meets as well as a YouTube link for the public to watch. I think it'll be similar to one of our task force meetings where all of the participants will be on a Google Meet link, and anyone from the public that wants to view can be watching through YouTube. Does that sound like a good format?
So we're now talking about the September 30th meeting of the full county. Okay.
5:30 p.m. on September 30th is what I have. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So does everyone agree first that it should be online?
Yeah, I think that's the best way still.
Yeah.
I understand the practicality of having it online. So I don't mean to dismiss that, but if there was some way we could have it in person where we could do some work breaking into groups and finding interests, common interests, I think there would be a lot of value in having that kind of interaction, not to say, oh, I'll email you tomorrow or something. I realize it may be impossible, but I sort of envision that meeting as having that kind of connectivity effect. And that means group and breaking into small groups. So that's just my 2 cents. And I realize we may not be able to do it and may have to wait until some future time.
Hey, Oswaldo, does Google Meets have the ability, if there was 50 of us on a Google Meets, does it have the ability to break out into smaller groups mid-meeting and say, okay, everyone interested in talking about this topic, go here, everyone, this topic, go here?
If I can add, I know that with the CLC and the Taconic Headwaters committee that I'm on, they do that, break it into smaller groups.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So Oswaldo says yes.
Oswaldo says yes, we can. He doesn't have a microphone. So, I feel pretty strongly that with the current status of COVID cases and with the recommendation from our health director that meeting in person is not a responsible thing to do, although I agree that in person is definitely more interactive. So if we can break into groups, I like that idea. If maybe we can do it online, I don't know how others feel.
I agree with you, Tistry. I mean, we have the highest infection rate this weekend we've had since last winter. So numbers are definitely going up, and I think we have to be safe.
Yeah, I agree strongly with that. I think that, and we can break into groups on Google Meet. It's not ideal, John, I agree, but it's just the reality we're in. And we'll follow up. I mean, I assume this is the first of hopefully a continuous interaction among and other folks in the county that are involved in projects.
One thing we might do if we are going to have small groups is check with people and pick out a couple of groups and we think people are interested in and ask them for it. So then those could be set up in advance, because if you got 50 people and trying to sort out who wants to be in 1, 2, or 3, somebody would go nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of smaller groups, which I hadn't thought of. So I think if we're going to do that at this meeting, we should define maybe 5 groups, 4 groups. Or if we come up with 8 or 10 groups, we can do like everyone together. And then at 6 o'clock, you break into group 1. And then at 6:30, you break into group 2, and you might be with a different group of people. But I think we should actually define that today if possible. And then I can send, once the link is set up, I'll get in touch with Patrice and Oswaldo to get the link set up and the breakout group links. Then I can, send it out in one email. Okay, it's going, because right now, and time. So I'd like to send one email that has, it's online, here's the link, here's the agenda, we're going to break into these groups. Please, RSVP by this date with your 2, if we're going to do 2 breakout groups with the 2 groups you choose. I don't know how others feel about the idea. I do feel when you have 50 people on an online meeting, not everyone gets to participate. And if you have 5 meetings with 10 people, 5 breakout groups with 10 people each, you're going to have much more interaction. So I like the idea. How do others feel?
Go ahead, John.
I was separately going to ask some questions about a couple of pledge elements because I wanted to interact with other people on them. So like pledge element 5, which is material smart management. We in Zero Waste and Claverick are interested in interacting with other people who have interest in that area. And so that might be an interesting group. And also I think that the pledge element 9, inform and inspire, for collaboration, and that would be a very helpful group. And I'm sure others have other things, but I just wanted to get those on the table.
Yeah, and Matthew has a question or a comment as well.
Real quick, John, did you say 5 and 9?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, I think just to second that, I think it's a great idea to get those groups ahead of time. I know in Germantown we have specific concerns, waste management. We'd like to see what other towns are doing, as well as I think next year, looking forward, we're going to be looking at doing a survey of our culverts and dams. I don't think we have quite the flooding issues that New Lebanon has, but we certainly are going to be looking at that next year. So going forward, anyone who's interested in those issues as well. So whether my task force coordinator, Christina, and see what her will coordinate on that. But just I know that those are 2 of the issues that we're working on locally, and we'd love to hear what other towns are doing.
Great.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. Dan. I think you may be muted. Dan,
Yeah.
there you go.
No, I was just thinking education programs is something that we've been talking about in Copake, and something that has obvious benefit to when it comes to collaboration with other towns. That might be something to think about for that meeting as well.
That's great. And I'll just add on, which is related to education, communications. There are efforts I know among some of the towns that launched Facebook pages or websites. It's a lot of work, obviously. And if we can coordinate and share resources in those efforts, I think that would lead to a better product for people, and be more coherent for folks in the county. I don't have a specific proposal for how we do that, but I think it's a point of discussion we should have.
Yeah.
And I defer to Steve and Mark for the pledge item number, but I would like one of the breakout groups to be about like free stores, bike recycling, because I think that's a real collaboration effort. Steve, what number is that? Do you know? Or Mark?
What number?
Like it's pledge element, whatever.
That's part of 5.
5. Okay.
Yeah. Can I just make another comment though too? Were the CACs, county CACs invited to this as well? Because the reason I ask is that the following week on October 6th, there's a CAC roundtable from 6 virtual from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That the CLC is sponsoring. So
I know that I included any group that was emailed to me. I don't believe CAC was one of the groups emailed to me, but I can certainly ask Becky to add on all CAC chairs.
I mean, we do have overlapping concerns, obviously. So I don't know whether we want to merge those two or potentially.
I think the idea originally, I recall, is that we would include the whole point of this meeting was to include a broader array of organizations, including the CACs, clean energy community groups that are not part of a climate smart task force in the town, that may be separate, as well as some key organizations that are active. The Citizens Climate Lobby came up, the CLC obviously. I mean, parents will be there and can represent CLC.
Go in your room. I'm in a meeting and you are sick. Get in your bed. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm homesick and walking around playing. I thought I was muted.
That's good. Let's follow up with any more comments are welcome, obviously, right now. But let's follow up, I think, with suggesting any other additional individual organizations or group of organizations to Tistria, and also agenda items. I think we've had a good list of areas that we could break out and really dive more deeply into. There are more, and we'll have to come up with a coherent agenda that has a finite number of breakout groups, and we'll work with you, Tistria, and help and support in any way possible. Do you need a group formed to help you organize this and provide support for this meeting, or do you feel like you've got everything kind of under control?
So Becky's been really helpful. So I think what I need from this task force is for you to email me any of the groups, but also the contacts. So just to say the CAC from every town, that's a lot of research work. So if you have a CAC, please email me the chair contact for your CAC. Your environmental management rep, please email me the contact. I can certainly send something out to all the supervisors, but in the past, when I've been trying to get information from an email to the supervisors, it has not yielded wonderful results. But I will certainly do that so nobody feels like they were left down to have a rep on this committee. But for anyone who's on this committee, if you could email me your environmental management rep contact and your CAC chair contact, that would be a great start, as well as any other groups that you know of that we can add to this list. As far as the agenda goes, David, I was hoping it's, unless we're really out of time, because I'm okay doing it on my own, but I want the feedback of this group. So my vision was that 5:30 to 6, the first half hour would be everyone together. And I think it would really just be a generic question of how can we as the county task force support town efforts, and really just have like an open brainstorming session where someone's taking notes and different people are saying, we would love help with this. We need support here. We need support there. And that's going to give us kind of a whiteboard of a starting point that we can then whittle down and see, how are we going to do these things? And obviously there will be another meeting that we can come back and say, okay, we heard at the first meeting these 27 topics. We've grouped them into these 4 things. And we're going to have these working groups or contacts or, whatever that looks like. But that was a main goal of us as a county task force, supporting the, thanks, Patrice, was supporting the town task force. So I think the first half hour should really just be an open dialogue where everyone can kind of throw out ideas. And then I do like the idea of groups. And I thought we would do 2 breakout sessions each for a half hour and pick 5 or 6 topics and repeat them for both groups, because in those 6 topics, I'm sure there's going to be 2 that I want to join. So I'm going to pick 2, and then I can help figure out, okay, 27 people picked this one. I'm going to put 13 in them at group 1 and 13 in group 2. Does that make sense? Instead of having 10 topics and everyone picking 2, just have the 5 or 6 topics, everyone still pick 2, and then you'll be with a different group, if that makes sense.
Excellent idea.
Yeah, and then I think the last half hour is us coming back and again having an open dialogue about some of the awesome stuff we talked about in our groups, like not rehaving the conversations, but just like, okay, maybe even having a point person from each group of like, here's the 7 things that came out that were really exciting about our thing. Here's the 8 things that came out that were exciting about our things. That's the vision I have, but I'd really love this committee's input before I move forward with that.
That sounds really good. Good questions. You would ask ahead of time for people to sign up so you could put them in ahead of time? That's great.
In their RSVP, they would sign up, and that way I would only send them the 2 breakout links for their 2 breakout sessions, so everyone's not confused with 27 links, like where am I going?
Right. Mm-hmm. And then the other question is just assigning. I imagine we would assign some facilitator who maybe would stay on. Maybe among this group, we could divvy that up and stay on and facilitate a discussion, take notes, and report back briefly in the last half hour, perhaps?
I think so, and I think it should be the same facilitator for both, the topic in group 1 and the topic in group 2. That same person's going to have that conversation twice. And they could even be the one that then reports back, because they could take points from both conversations. And it might be a similar conversation, it might be different. And so what I think I'm going to look for from this task force, and I would really need it by like mid next week, I'm going to send it out today, is what are those 5 or 6 topics? And I like that John Bradley said PE 5, PE 9, but let's be a little more specific. So like, I want to talk specifically about resource recovery, I think it's called, where the free store and the bike recycling and those things fall under. But if it's PE 5, it could be 7 different people with 7 different things they want to talk about. So be pretty specific in what you want to talk about, and then I'll compile from there. Once I have what the groups are, and if we end up with 10 and we have 70 people and there's 7 in each group, that's okay too. So once I know what those groups are, then I'm going to send another email out, and that can be a little bit later to say who really feels like they have expertise in this area out of our group. So like if it's something that your town has done and you feel like you can lead the group, and then I'll assign kind of who the moderator is for each group. Does that work?
Yep. That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So it looks like I'm going to get CAC and environmental management contacts in the chat box. 2 different people have those lists. So never mind on sending me your contacts there. And I will send out an email today asking what your action items are if you want breakouts for.
That's great. One more thought, because of the number of people that could potentially be involved here, do we want to either encourage or mandate that, each of these organizations just send one person and then the rest of the group can kind of participate through the YouTube and watch if there are more people? Like, it'd be great to have one representative from CLC, the CCL, the CACs, that's all, and EMC members that aren't already involved in one of the other groups, and everyone on this group and representative from the climate task force, just so we don't end up with 3 or 4 people from a given town. We'll end up with hundreds of people potentially, which would be a great problem to have on some level, but unwieldy.
Yeah, I think if it was in person, we wouldn't limit it, but an online makes it a little bit harder when you get that many people. And I think I can put in the email that if you wear 7 different hats, you can represent one and you can bring someone else in for the other. And so, so like we in New Lebanon, our CSC and CAC members overlap a lot. So they can have 2 essentially, one CAC, one CLSC, which really could be on both, but they're then allowed the 2.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Great. Anything else? And then we just have a couple more items. But anything else here, Tistri? Do you need anything else from us?
Nope, I think I'm good. Thank you all.
Thank you. This is really exciting, and yeah, I'm very, very excited that this is moving forward. I think it's going to yield fruit for all of us and help us become more coherent as a community in what we're doing here. I do have a quick, Oswaldo.
250 is the max amount of people for a Google Meet, so I think we're good.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Patrice and Oswaldo, for that extra information, and Terrence for the CAC list. That's really helpful. Quickly, let's just see here. I have a quick update from Jolene on solid waste because she couldn't make the meeting, but she kindly sent an email, and I just wanted to make sure folks were aware. She said, as for an update, we are still waiting on the signage for the buildings recycling program from the Highways Sign Shop. Once they have them completed, all the bins are ready to go into the buildings with educational information. So that's great on a lot of levels, but it's moving forward, and we'll be able to count that as a completed action for Climate Smart soon. The other update from Jolene is the composting bin has been set up at the Copake station for demonstration and educational handout for demonstration. And educational handouts are available to those residents who are interested in doing backyard composting. We have not yet received all the bins to start collecting food scraps, but hope to get the program up and running before the end of September. So that is some progress there from the solid waste department. Thank you, Jolene, for that. And I know that Zero Waste Columbia has been discussing composting, and hopefully there's an opportunity, and maybe we can discuss this at the October meeting with Jolene for collaboration, and maybe there's an opportunity for community members or groups like Zero Waste to help Jolene advertise or promote some of these efforts so it gets out there to a broader group of people that this is happening. It's good stuff. Yeah, Supervisor Adams, please.
I just had one quick question. Do we have a logo? So that when we sponsor programs and we put information out, we have something visual that people associate with us?
The quick answer is no. The long answer is also no. Yeah, I mean, I think this goes to a broader question of communications and outreach and social media and web presence. And I think we need I'm not an expert to know what the prioritization would be and how we structure all that, but we certainly could use a group, a committee, if there are folks that are interested in taking that on to develop maybe an agenda for us as to how we might increase education, outreach, communications, and something that is on our agenda today. And I think a logo could be really great part of that. And I'm sure we can find someone, a designer in the community here who could volunteer or donate their time for developing a logo with a subcommittee. John.
If you go online under Climate Smart Images, there are some standard images that are used sort of like a logo. And the state uses it, and there's variations that you can adapt for your own purposes. But there are some things out there that are commonly used.
That's a great idea. I mean, we can just create, something based on the New York State Climate Smart logo, like John's suggesting, Columbia County version of that.
Yeah,
would be very difficult.
Great.
Yeah, we took the CSC, the official CSC logo, and just wrote New Lebanon underneath it. So we could do the same thing for the county.
Because then it would become kind of like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval for town events. For those of you who are old enough to know what the Good Housekeeping seal of approval is.
Exactly.
Is there interest in taking this on as a committee to get together, discuss these various issues around kind of communications, education, outreach.
I wish I could, but I can't.
Yes.
Well, email me. Let me know if you're interested in this, and we probably need maybe 3 people is a good number to start with. And if there's not bandwidth or an appetite to do this at this point, that'll just be what it is. I think we can definitely get a logo together based on what we've heard. But please email me if you're interested and you have some experience, even if you don't, in this area, if you're interested in it, because it'll be a growing need for us to do this. We do have a web page as well on the county site that's not doing much. And I think this goes to the broader question of, can we share resources with other active climate smart groups in the county to do this collectively, or somehow coordinate so we're not all trying to do the same thing?
Yes.
So just let me know. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss on it right now.
We also get points for both education and outreach and marketing. So it's an action item. I think that would be a good one too. I know 2 people mentioned education and communication. So I think that would definitely be a good group discussion, because we might get some ideas on how we can collaborate more between the county and the towns.
And if there's something that forms among a group of people now, then that, and we have that on the agenda for September, maybe they could have a little meeting before September and brainstorm some ideas and go into that meeting with some of those ideas as well to try to facilitate. It's a good opportunity to explore this before that meeting, if there is an appetite and availability for folks. So just please let me know if you're interested. Even if it's just a couple people, I think that's helpful. Okay. I think that's it. Is there anything I'm missing? Anything else? Tistria.
I just wanted a quick check-in on the appointment of, I think it's Matt Stitchcomb.
Yes, thank you. That was actually on my list.
I just emailed Supervisor Adams because she's on county government. I'm hoping that can get pushed through at the September meeting. I think everything that was asked for was provided. And I'm also going to just make the point, and I think Supervisor Adams either already made it or will make it at this coming meeting. None of the other task force members or organizations that are being represented were needed to be vetted or anything like this. So I think it somehow got combined with the coordinator thing, whereas they were very separate things and there's a lot of confusion. So hopefully we can just get that forward, because I think he's a very valuable addition to our task force. So
thank you for remembering that. I had it on my list and I didn't bring it up, but absolutely. Hopefully that happens and we can move forward. Okay.
I muted Brenda. I think Brenda said she'll take care of it. Thanks, Brenda.
Great. Well, an hour and a half, so that's pretty good. We'll try to keep it short. I mean, that's the efficiency is key, right? If there's anything else, just send me an email. Thank you all. We've got a bunch of follow-ups. We will continue to move ahead, and we'll otherwise see everyone on the 30th, and then our next meeting beginning of October. But thanks everyone for participating during a work day.
And David, I assume you have everyone's email already, like in an email that I can just forward you what goes out and you can send it out.
I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Motion to adjourn at 11:31. I guess we don't really have to do that if we're not subject, but.
No.
Okay, well.
I'll second it anyway, Testria.
All right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank